Good evening, everyone, and thank you so much for coming to the last of the 12 listening sessions here in Virginia Beach relating to the elections process. Just a couple of housekeeping matters. If you could silence your cell phones or at least put them on buzzer. If you need to take a call, if you could step outside and do that. Bathrooms are just right outside the doors and to your right. And there's exits, there's emergency exit behind me, and of course, in the way that you entered, and of course, to the left in case there was an emergency. My name is Charnel Hearing, and with me facilitating tonight is Jane Dittmar. We're with the Weldon Cooper Center, and we're so pleased to be with you tonight. Um, we are all looking forward to hearing what everyone has to say, and I'm going to turn it over to Jane. Before I turn it over to Jane, I do need to recognize our elected officials here. We have Bev Anderson from the school board, as well as Mike Kellum, and Councilman Worth Remick is with us as well. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Charnel. We are your facilitators tonight. Our role is to make sure that you have a chance to have your voice heard and that we capture that voice for you. We're also in charge of making sure that we stay on time. So we'll be managing that so that everyone has a chance to speak. We're also wanting to share with you that your role is, if the spirit moves, to come to the mic and share with us your experience with the Virginia Beach electoral system. Also, it is, if you don't speak or not speaking, to listen respectfully. We plan to capture every word that you say tonight with verbatim transcripts. We are videoing this session so that it will be part of the forever record of these 12 sessions regarding the election system. And as your facilitators, we are taking notes tonight to have a key findings report produced for the final report that UVA will present to your city council.
As Jane mentioned, there will be a key findings report. There will also be a random sample survey, a random survey that will be sent to individuals to fill out. If you don't get a random survey, there's no fear that you can also go to the website and fill out a survey so that everyone's voice is heard. It's important to the city that that happens. If you don't give comments tonight and something occurs to you, you can provide comments online. The website is Speak Up VB. It's a City of Virginia Beach website, and it's at the domain publicinput.com. Also, you can leave a voicemail at 855-925-2801. There's an issue that's not related to the elections process, but you want the city to know about. You can also email jtorres, that's JTORRES, at vbgov.com. After the listening sessions, as mentioned before, a report will be given, but there will also be recommendations made by legal counsel, options that the city can consider, and the city council will consider that in conjunction with the findings from these listening sessions. Congratulate Virginia Beach. Jane and I were talking, this is probably one of the most comprehensive processes that we've seen in the Commonwealth, where there's hearings in practically every locality, 2 virtual sessions, so that everyone has an opportunity to participate. So how we are going to spend tonight, it's all about you. It's your input, your thoughts, your concerns about the elections process. How do you think the city should proceed in the future? It's all about you and your input. But first, we're going to watch a short video that was prepared by the city on how we got here today.
Prior to 2022, our local election system remained mostly unchanged since 1967. The city charter defined our local election system as having 11 members. 4 were chosen at large with no residency requirement, including the mayor, and 7 more were elected at large, but had to reside within one of the former districts. The charter also stated that school board members would be elected in the same manner as their city council counterparts. In November 2017, a lawsuit was filed against the city. The suit alleged that the at-large system violated the Federal Voting Rights Act by diluting the voting power of minorities. Specifically, the plaintiffs contended that the former voting system diluted the voting strength of a coalition of Black, Hispanic, and Asian minority groups. The city defended the lawsuit, contending that no single minority group was large and compact enough to constitute a majority within a single voting district. The city also asserted that it was not reasonable to combine Black voters with Asian and Hispanic voters, since Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act did not authorize combining minority groups, and that the three minority groups specifically mentioned do not vote cohesively as one group. While the lawsuit was pending, the Virginia General Assembly considered and adopted legislation that would require changes to the election system, regardless of the outcome of the case. House Bill 2198 made it so that localities with district or ward-based residency requirements for members of a governing body must elect its members by the qualified members of that district or ward, and not by the locality at large. Further, House Bill 1890 and Senate Bill 1395, known as the Virginia Voting Rights Act, clarified that any at-large method of election shall not be imposed by the governing body in a manner that impairs the ability of a protected class to elect candidates of its choice or its ability to influence an election. Both pieces of legislation also apply to school boards. In March of 2021, the district court said that the city's voting system violated Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act. The court concluded that the coalition claims were legally permissible and that the minority groups specifically mentioned in the case were politically cohesive. The court prohibited the city from using the former system in any future elections. Following the March 2021 ruling of the district court, a special master created new election district maps for the city using data from the 2020 census, ensuring they were equally populated. They were drawn in a manner that, in the court's view, would allow a sufficient majority of minority populations to facilitate the election of minority groups' candidates of choice, including the creation of 3 minority opportunity districts. Under the new 10-1 system, 10 city council members and 10 school board members are elected from each of the districts. Only the mayor continues to be elected at large and can reside anywhere in the city. The city appealed the district court's decision to the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Fourth Circuit. In July of 2022, a 3-judge panel ruled that the lower court erred in its decision and vacated the district court's decisions and remedy. This decision left the city free to consider options other than the 10-1 system in future elections. However, it was too late to effectively implement a new system in time for the November 2022 election cycle. In November of 2022, residents went to the polls of their choice using the 10-1 system that had been ordered by the district court. 161,753 ballots were cast, and the outcome was the election of the city's most diverse slate of representatives. Since the court order that implemented the 10-1 system is no longer in effect, and the former system of electing local representatives is still on the books in the city charter, it became apparent that City Council would need to formally adopt a new method in time for the 2024 elections. In order to ensure that residents had a say in the direction that City Council opts to pursue, they passed a resolution in December of 2022 to begin a community engagement campaign to educate and inform residents on what legally viable options are available for the city. Following the community engagement period, Virginia Beach residents will be asked to participate in a survey in April. A random sampling of residents will receive a survey in the mail. However, an online version will be available to all residents, with results shared with council and the community this summer. In conclusion, a decision on our election system must be made by City Council in time for the 2024 election. Thank you for joining us today. This is your opportunity to provide input on city policy development and decision-making.
part of the evening, and we've allotted most of that time to this, is input from you. Before we get started on that, I'd like to go over the process we're going to follow to gather your input. First, we're going to take one speaker at a time. Your name will be called. This is for pre-registered speakers. Your name will be called, and the person following you's name will be called. The reason why we're calling both names is so the person that follows you can queue, so there's not a long lead time for them to get to the mic. You will be given 3 minutes at the mic to make your comment. Most speakers do not need 3 minutes, but in case you're running past 2 minutes and 45 seconds, we have a signal, let you know it's time to wrap it up. We are not here to answer questions tonight as your facilitators, but you're welcome to come to the mic and ask a question that will be passed along to City Council for their consideration. When you're finished, return to your seat, or if what your purpose in being here tonight was to come and give input and you do not wish to listen to the other speakers, feel free to leave. We've had just really wonderful input sessions, as Charnel told you when she opened up the meeting. This is the 12th of 12. People have been passionate at times, but very respectful. And we ask that you not make any distracting noise while someone is speaking. It's distracting to the speaker. It can be intimidating to speakers that may follow, and it's definitely confusing for all the people listening online tonight. We do have a way of capturing your emphasis on something that a speaker is saying silently. And that is, if you will just raise your hand while we're taking notes, we will be counting how many hands are up, and we will add emphasis to that comment in our report. I think that's the rest of the process. Charnel, we're ready to go.
Good evening. Our first speaker will be Carl Wright, and then the next speaker will be Melissa Lukeson. Okay. Current speaker is Melissa Lukeson. After Melissa Lukeson will be Tracy Murray. Okay. First speaker is Tracy Murray. The next speaker will be Andrew Jackson.
Sir. Please approach. Sir.
Good evening. My name really is Andrew Jackson. Not faking it. I don't know if I have something to say or something to ask. And I guess my saying would be to ask the question, if we finally got a system like everybody else's in this country, why are we trying to change it? Why would we go through a court, an appeal, federal court, it's mute? We come to this point where we have this system that works. I haven't heard anybody complain about the voting system. It went smoothly. There was no lines. Nobody complained. So the question exists, why they want to spend almost $1 million of our tax dollars to put back in place the profiteers? I think one person I heard quoted in the newspaper, if they don't go things my way, I'm leaving. My answer, bye.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Philip Hines. After Philip Hines is Mary Gentry.
Welcome.
Good evening. My name's Philip Hines. Thanks for hosting this public input. Virginia Beach is the best city in the region. One of those reasons is because we've had a history of visionary leaders that are both bold and practical. I'd encourage us all to look at the facts as it relates to the voting systems and look forward to the final analysis of the Weldon Cooper. Atlanta, Kansas City, Colorado Springs. Any other cities with similar populations all have super boards. And if we look just down the street, our neighbors in Norfolk have a super board system and they've had it for years. We do not need to reinvent the wheel. Let's focus on what cities with similar sizes do and tailor it. Furthermore, and it should be noted, by expanding our increases we need to balance super board revenue.
Thank you.
Current speaker is Mary Gentry, and then the next speaker will be Charles Biden.
Council races or candidates who accept those donations are in favor of at-large voting and/or hybrid voting systems because they can win without representing or listening to minorities and neighborhood concerns. The city has been grappling with this issue for over 6 years. Millions of dollars were spent appealing the judge's ruling, and now more money is being spent to get public input. It's time for the city to look forward, to move forward with district voting. Thank you.
Current speaker is Charles Biden, and the next speaker will be Mike Callan.
Good evening. My name is Charles Baden, and I appreciate the opportunity to speak about our voting system. Just briefly, I've been a resident of Virginia Beach for 60 years, and we've had during that time, almost 60 years, a voting system that allowed us to vote at large across the city, citywide. And I would just mention that our city has grown during that time from a small town of about 35,000 to several 100,000. During that time, I think that the system that we've had for so many, many years has served us well. Now, all of a sudden, we have a different system, of course, because of a court decision. But now we find that that decision has been appealed. And so where are we now? We need to realize that, I don't know about you folks, but if I have a problem, I would like to be able to call any council member in our city, no matter where they live. I believe that when you have a system like that as citywide, they are accountable to every one of us. To me, that's an option that I feel is contributing to good government. If you've only got one person for each little district or wards, or they have their own little kingdom, that person, but maybe you don't even like them. Call someone else. In short, I believe that the more representation they have, the better. And, well, at-large voting, I would like to see it in all 10 districts. But if that's not possible, a compromise of some sort would work with 5 or 6 districts. But I think even that would be better than what we have now. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Current speaker is Mike Callan. Next speaker will be Daniel Burns.
My name is Mike Cowan. Present maybe a different perspective on this, having just gone through for the first time in my entire journey as a citizen of Virginia Beach. My dad's a Navy fighter pilot in 1965 when I moved here in the 7th grade. Never left. I met my wife in high school. We had 2 children. We now have 4 grandchildren. So the roots are pretty deep into the soils of Virginia Beach. And in light of the changes that are happening in the culture for an old school guy like me, I did something that I'd never considered doing before in my life. I raised my hand, said, I guess it's my turn to run for something. And not something in general, but something in particular, and that was the school board. So I can speak to you from the perspective of what it means to be a candidate in this new system, because it was the first time I'd ever run, so I wasn't subjected to the former system that existed. What was helpful from the perspective of a candidate was the fact that I was living in a specific defined district. And as a result, the only people who could vote for me were the folks who lived in that same district. There were 46,000, I don't know if they were registered voters or just citizens, but the number was the entire city is 460,000. We'll divide that by 10 and come up with 46,000 people within a district. And at least from the perspective of a candidate, instead of trying to cover the entirety of the city, gave me a defined district within which to knock doors. And I can tell you, I knocked doors until my brains fell out. It's a daunting task, but it does give you an enormous appreciation for the democratic process and what can happen. And it's interesting as you knock on somebody's door in August and it's 98 degrees and somebody says after you introduce yourself to them, they tell me, you got my vote. And out of curiosity, you say, I appreciate it, but you just met me. And their response was this: nobody who's ever run for school board in my entire life has ever knocked on my door before. Mister, you get my vote for showing up in 98-degree weather, and it just goes to show you what can happen. Now, fast forward, and it's school board season, and you start January 1, and you are on the board. You're on the dais, as I believe it's pronounced. And what you realize quickly, though,
15
even though you
seconds.
were voted in by a specific district, the decisions that you make don't cover the school children just in that district at the exclusion of everyone else. The decisions that you make and the hands that you raise when you're voting yay or nay represent the entirety of the system. So in that respect, you say, I'm not a voice of a small component of the city. I'm a voice for the entirety of the city. So I appreciate the fact that the campaigning process was limited to a defined district, but I do understand in reality, it's a citywide vote anytime you're making that decision. So I don't know if that helps, hinders, or just gives you a different perspective, but I wanted to share what it's like to run from the perspective of a candidate, and the system works. So thank you.
Thank you.
Current speaker is Daniel Burns, and then the next speaker will be Mike Mitchell.
Hello, I'm Daniel Burns. I'm a resident of Aragona Village. That was mainly just to understand the issues. I voted in the last election, the 10-1 system, and I was kind of disappointed because all there was on the ballot was a congressman, 1 city councilman, and 1 school board member. That's as far as my vote could go. They said they went to this system. The plaintiffs alleged that it diluted minority voting strength. Well, I felt my voting strength was diluted. There used to be several candidates I could vote for. And I understand the at-large system is very expensive for campaigning. You have to be rich or have rich friends. We all know how that goes. But I do believe that we should have more than one councilman, school board member on our individual ballot. So I was going to propose a compromise. For each district, you could have 3 neighboring districts where you could also vote school board member or councilman. Your ballot would say you belong to this district. Now, many voters would probably only vote for that one district councilman and leave the others blank, and that's their prerogative. I leave school board ballots blank. I have children, and I don't feel informed enough on the issues to vote for school board. That's my prerogative. But I did feel my vote was diminished. I also think this proposal might reduce divisiveness amongst the school board and city council because it could promote more cooperation. Councilman knows he has a broader voter base. And also limiting the number of districts would help keep the cost down for the campaign. In closing, I just ask that please don't dilute my vote by staying with this 10-1 system. Thank you.
Thank you.
The current speaker is Mike Mitchell, and the next speaker will be Carol Johnson. If we could just please ask that our speakers speak into the microphone. It's making it difficult for people on the stream to hear. Thank you.
Okay, and thank you very much. And for those of you that don't know who I am, and my name is Mike Marcellus Mitchell, and I am from District 4 and a former candidate for City Council. And I want to thank Miss Georgia Allen and Corey and Melissa Lutza for allowing me to come out to these meetings because I had no idea what was going on. So now I do know what's going on, and I'm a bit disgusted because I do support the 10-1 system because I have learned this past week what that does. Because when you have it at large and you have people who are special with interest and they spend all this money on one person and tell that person to do da, 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 you don't never get nothing done. And thank you, Georgia Allen, for teaching me how to be diverse. And even though that I am a strong, God-fearing Republican, however, when I do decide to rerun for District 4, and I will support the people and represent the people because the people should be represented by somebody who cares, and we will get these homeless people off the streets, and we will do right by this 10-1 system, and praise God Almighty, and we will make Dr. King's dream be true, and we will do right. And thank you very much.
Current speaker is Carol Johnson, and the next speaker will be David Albus.
Is somebody that I didn't know who the person was. I knocked on doors for a lot of people running for school board and city council, and they in this room right here. Some people didn't know that I was knocking on doors for them. Nobody knocked on my door. I want the at-large. I don't care what their special interest is. I might be interested in what they have. I wanted to run for office, but I know the people wouldn't vote for me. I have good ideas for school board, okay? And I'm in the schools. We got people on school boards that don't even go to schools. Last time you've been in a school board and you want in a school and you want a school board, that should be a requirement. But I don't like 10-1. Thank you.
Speaker is David Albus, and then the next speaker will be Pam.
evening. My name is David Albus. I live in Cape Story by the Sea, which I believe is in District 8. I just want to say that I am approve of the 10-1 voting district as we have them now. From what I've seen from our past up to now, we have a much better representation under this voting type of system. And I think it's good. I like it. If we had to have a couple of super wards, so be it, I could live with that. But I think the citywide voting for all candidates is a detriment to people's voices in being represented. Thank you.
Thank you.
Current speaker is Pamela Best, and the next speaker will be Chantel Dejoux. Apologies if I'm mispronouncing any names.
Welcome. Pamela Best, and I am 6. And I'm also a business owner, and talking about the machine. So this is really exciting. When it breaks down to the 10-1 system, I believe that the 10-1 system is better for me as a business owner, especially because I saw my representative, the city council, sitting back there. He came to my door on a hot summer afternoon, and I appreciated him, and I told him what I wanted him to do with the school district. But he says, well, I'll do the best I can, but I'm city council. So I got a good education, and I want to run for school district too, maybe city council later, but I believe in the 10-1 system because I need my representation person to show up at my door, show up at my business, and show up at the meetings in our little vibe district in Virginia Beach. So thank you for doing that.
Thank you.
Current speaker is Chantel Dejoux, and then the next speaker will be Lynn Schultz. And as a
Thank you.
reminder, if our speakers could please speak into the microphone. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm voting in District 6, and I just want to support the 10-1 system. It obviously brings a lot better diversity and representation that has been shown in the last election. And I think that good representation and diversity is very important for a vibrant city, a vibrant government, and also a good, well-run school board system. So I do support the 10-1 system.
Current speaker is Lynn Schultz, and then the next speaker will be Gay Goldsmith.
Hi, I'm Lynn Schultz. I live in District 6. I am in support of keeping the current 10-1 district system for electing our city council and school board. I've worked in several campaigns for city council over the last few years, one under the old system and one most recently under this new system. I believe the new system encourages more diverse candidates, promotes greater contact between candidates and their constituents, and makes it possible to run a competitive campaign with less dollars. Thanks.
The current speaker is Gay Goldsmith, and then the next speaker will be Ella Dunbar.
Hi, I'm Gay Goldsmith. I live in District 6, and I'm here to support the existing 10-1 system. Under the 10-1 system, I feel like for the first time since I moved to Virginia Beach in 1992, I have a representative on City Council who is actually aware of my concerns and the concerns of his constituents in District 6. So again, I support the 10-1 system. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our current speaker is Ella Dunbar. The next speaker, I was only given a last name of Cleric. They registered under JK.
Welcome. Good evening. I am wholeheartedly in favor of the 10-1 system. This system allows, excuse me, for equal opportunity for your voice to be heard by City Council. You have a person who represents your district and who's also accountable to your district, someone who knows what's going on in your district. And if anyone is concerned that, well,
I think you can call anybody on city council, and it doesn't have to be just your district. But if you want to make sure that what's going on in your neighborhood can get to city council, it's nice to have somebody who's familiar with your district. So I think the at-large system allows big money to control what happens or doesn't happen in your community and the whole city at large. I know that some may have felt disenfranchised because they showed up at the polls in the last election expecting to be able to vote for someone they saw in a campaign ad on TV. I know of at least one area where the only people on the ballot were Elaine Loria and Jen Kiggins. And they did not have a council person to vote for because the person who represented their district was not up for reelection yet. The persons in the district where the candidate lives and was running to represent had the responsibility to choose or not choose that person. I think voter education is key. We had an election where everyone had the same opportunity to be heard. So I really don't quite understand why, we're here going through this, because everyone, one person, one vote, and you had the opportunity to be heard. So I don't know, maybe some city council folks and the developers down at the oceanfront, maybe there's another 18 million that needs to go to Mr. Thompson. I don't know. But I think people who live in Aragona, people who live in Bayside, people who live in London Bridge, people who live in Great Neck, everybody has something in the neighborhood that they need to have done. And people down at the oceanfront don't have a clue what's going on at London Bridge. Unless, of course, there's some land they can get, and then they can get their folks on the, city council to give them a, variance that they can do something in your neighborhood that you don't want. The legacy of Virginia Beach is that some areas matter more than others. Certain things are allowed to happen in certain areas, but not others. I remember on Bird Neck Road, right at the entrance to public housing, they had an open air drug market where people just stood at the entrance to public housing, didn't even live there, and just flagged down cars, and cars would turn in, and children had to walk past them to go to 7-Eleven to buy candy. And it didn't matter how much the residents complained. It went on for years.
15 seconds.
So, I think that, you wouldn't allow that to happen in some other places. Now, I did have somebody, approach me one time, I didn't live in public housing, and asked me where could they score some drugs, and, being as helpful as I could, I directed him to his mama's house. Okay? So when you allow neighborhoods to go down, then you also diminish the people that live there, and people begin to think that they don't have to respect the area or the people that live there. And we can do better than that. Thank you.
Thanks.
Our current speaker, I believe, has the last name of Cleric. I apologize, I do not have a first name. And then the next speaker will be Carl Wright.
Welcome.
District 6. I support the 10-1 system for the main reason primarily that we do have the most diverse city council that we've ever had. And I just think that is an awesome thing. And I really want to see that continue. I would hate to see us backslide to be well, I think we're just more inclusive now with a more diverse council. Also, I wanted to say that I happened to be a poll greeter at the elections last time. And you hear a lot of interesting comments, people coming in and coming out of the buildings. And a lot of people would come out and say, oh, well, I only had one person to vote for, or two people to vote for. But, you kind of get a little discussion with them, and they say, oh, okay, well, that makes sense. There was certainly no anger, no disruption. So I agree that from what I saw, it was a very smooth process. And I've also heard comments about maybe doing a hybrid system with some super wards. And I just don't like that idea, because as soon as you open the door, you're starting to dilute the power of a vote. And when I think about 10-1, I think that my vote is a lot stronger because I'm voting in my district, and I don't want my neighbor voting in my district, because that is actually diluting my vote. So support 10-1. Thank you.
Thank you.
Current speaker is Carl Wright, and then after Carl Wright is Melissa Lukeson.
Good evening. I want to say thank you, ladies. You all have done a wonderful job. This is our town hall meeting. Appreciate you so much. I've been to several of these meetings, and I want to say that I am so excited about this new system. Overly excited. It's a long time coming. I've been working the precincts in this city for close to 20 years, and I have worked 100 precincts. That is tough. The only people that have an opportunity to work and get out votes for 100 precincts are folks with money. You don't have any money, you can leave that 100 precincts alone. Tell you this 10-1 system is the best thing that has happened in a long time in Virginia Beach. And I'll tell you something else. I'm not going to be fooled. Now, I see all the people come out and saying, like myself, saying, I support the 10-1. But they have done a lot of pushback on this 10-1. So let's not get too excited right now. I see the folks come out and say, okay, we feel like we have it. There's another process after this one to push back on this thing. So I want everybody to stay in tune with what's going on with this 10-1 system, because they're not through pushing back on this thing. This is about accountability, ladies and gentlemen. Accountability. If you have a council person, man or woman, hold these folks accountable. You know, I'm so excited about it because if you want my vote, then you need to tell me what it is you can do for my community and what you can do for the city. Don't just come out on election time, ask me for my vote, and tell me, vote for me, I'll set you free. You know, I'm here because I'm excited about this system. We need this 10-1 system. They're going to come with something else. I'm not, I wouldn't be surprised. But I know the power's with the people. I know you have good people here in Virginia. I know we can get this 10-1 system done. It's about our children and those coming behind us, our children and grandchildren. They need an opportunity. They may not have $600,000 to put in the They may not be interested in being used by the powers that be. So give them an opportunity. We've got someone on city council. I won't say any name. Look up there. They've been up there for 10 terms. Now, you all do the math. 10 terms. Now, I don't know what it is that you need to do in 40 years.
15
on city
seconds.
Council, but hey, that's the system that we had. So I'm once again, I'm delighted about this system. I hope we get this 10-1 system. Those of you all that are here, please stay tuned. Keep your eye on what's going on. They're not done. It's pushback.
Ty.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Current speaker is Melissa Lukeson, and then the next speaker will be Tracy Murray. Current speaker is Tracy Murray. So I have no more registered in-person speakers. And while there are some people on the phone queue, none have indicated they wish to speak. However, if they change their mind, they can press star and select menu item 3. But for now, I have no additional registered speakers.
So while we're waiting for people who are virtual, that I do see someone who wants to speak. If you can come forward now. Oh, okay. No, you may come forward now. Just remember to state your name. Thank you.
System. Although my husband grew up here in Virginia Beach, actually he was the first kindergarten class at Allenton and did attend First Colonial High School. I moved here 20 years ago, and I have to be honest, I was quite shocked that this city's local at-large voting system was a voting system that most localities across the country stopped using. This past election, under the new 10-1 voting system, we saw a more diverse city council body, more women, more people of color, more diverse points of view. Why does our Virginia Beach leadership establishment, our mayor and vice mayor and those on council who still support at-large voting still keep fighting this new 10-1 system? Why did they keep fighting to go back to an old way that clearly disenfranchises African American and marginalized communities? Why did they keep fighting even though a new law mandates we could no longer have at-large voting and a federal court ruling that declared that the once at-large voting system in Virginia Beach illegally disadvantaged minorities? A fight, by the way, that cost our city a lot of money, and a voting system that only
one other city in the Commonwealth still employed at the time. We cannot go back to we know that we cannot go back to an at-large system, and they know that. However, they continue trying to weaken the 10-1 by pushing alternative voting systems that are less at large, like a hybrid 7-3-1 or a 6-4-1 voting system. One of the biggest arguments I hear from council members who are still opposed to the 10-1 is that a council member representing one city district is seemingly incapable of understanding and advocating for the needs of his or her district, and at the same time for the needs of Virginia Beach as a whole. And I want to remind those members that when we vote for our state delegates and our state senators and our members of Congress, we vote only for a candidate in our district who represents our district, but also is quite capable of caring for and supporting the general interest of our Commonwealth and our country, respectively. So to the members of City Council who continue to fight to dismantle the present 10-1 voting system, I say, please stop. We don't need to go to referendum. We don't need to spend any more money. Why? Because we love it. We love voting for our own representatives in our own district. We love having a member of council who is accountable to us in our district. We love that running for local offices in Virginia Beach is more equitable and more affordable. And we love more women on council, more people of color, and more diverse points of view. The majority of residents in Virginia Beach support the existing 10-1 system, and in these days of hyper-partisan politics, isn't it refreshing that this
15
is something
seconds.
that Republicans, Democrats, Libertarians alike support? Thank you very much.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to speak who has not been called? Yes, ma'am. Or to state your name first. Thank you.
I think I'm in District 8, although I live in the Great Neck area, Bay Island, and we are not represented. I believe my representative lives in Little Neck, which has nothing to do with my area. And I've felt this for a while. I've thought that the other people that we voted for were dealing with the ocean front, and now I see District 6 is very happy because that's Cape Henry, which we're very close to. And all of a sudden they split us off, sent us over to Little Neck, which the two they're not the same district by any stretch of the imagination. When I got to the polls, it was a confusing situation. We did not know who we were voting for, and there were two districts represented at the same poll. One of the people was advertising which party they were with, which was illegal as far as I knew. It's not a party vote, but nobody stopped them from doing that. Right now there's a project going right by my house. For a week I've been trying to find out who took down 100 trees, what's Dominion Power been allowed to do on city property, and for a week nobody knows. The city called back today, they don't know. So where's my representation? I do think that the boards have been composed of primarily the same type of people as far as developers and real estate people and people who were involved with the hotels, and also a lot of corruption and opaque situations going on. It's completely amazed to figure out what's going on in Virginia Beach, and I hope somehow, at least with the next vote, that could be somehow, with this whole voting system, made it less opaque and more all the issues. Let us know what's going on. We came here today, 5 people I spoke to, we didn't even know what this meeting was about. And I don't know how many in this room knew or how you knew, but I had to call the city, and they not that yellow card did not explain what this meeting was about. So I would like to see, first of all, my district being represented, and it's not somehow is split off from District 6. And I'd also like to see more of a balance. I looked at the city council when they were voting on the real estate the real estate taxes, and it seemed that most of the city council's members were voting on the Vibe District or what was going to be on in Virginia Beach as far as the oceanfront events, which are nice, but they're funding the hotels, and they're not necessarily all over the city. What's going to go on with our real estate taxes and how our taxes are spent? What's going on at the oceanfront? is part of it, and I know it attracts visitors here
15
and
seconds.
brings some revenue, but it doesn't help all of our districts. Excited. Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome. Just remember to state your name. Thank you.
So good evening. My name is Jim Borton. The 10-1 system and then the old system, I don't know which is better. I just think that the 10-1 system for a school board, since Virginia Beach has all these academies, you could have 3 kids going to 3 different high schools. So if you live in Princess Anne, none of your kids go to Princess Anne, why do you care about the school board number for Princess Anne? Your kid could go to Bayside for the Health and Science Academy, could come to First Colonial for the Legal Studies Academy, but you're forced to vote for somebody at Princess Anne. Your kid might not even go to Princess Anne. So there's got to be something, since we have all these academies in Virginia Beach, that help the parents where all their kids are. That's what I got. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to speak? Yes, ma'am. Just remember to state your name.
I'm Judith Jeffrey. I'm domiciled in District 7. I am definitely in support of the 10-1 system. Anyone that gives you an opportunity, you should take it. An opportunity comes, it presents itself, hangs around for a little while, and then it disappears if you don't act on it. I feel that the Virginia Beach powers that be, they are still caught up in what I refer to as the de facto system, meaning what was, what will be, and it should not be meddled with. That's why there was a lawsuit brought, and the plaintiffs won the case. And what did Virginia Beach do? Stomped their feet, acted like spoiled brats, and now we're in this situation. However, I do thank thee for Weldon situation. The de facto situation, if some of you may not be familiar with it, is a system that has been in place that will benefit allegedly rich, powerful people who want to do what they want to do all the time. Simply not fair. I don't believe in going backwards. If I'm driving an automobile and I want to go backwards, then I'll put it in reverse to go forward, okay? Other than that, I'm not going to put up with it. And I definitely, again, support the 10-1 system. It represents something new, fair, give it a try, and we need to have it back and have it be sustained, become sustained. And I guess you may determine that I have an insult level, and if I have wrinkles on my face, it'll be because I have done something that I've earned it. I'm not going to allow this city to put wrinkles on my face. You shouldn't allow it to be done on yours because of a bullshit situation. And again, I support the 10-1 system. It works. It's very affordable for candidates who want to work in your neighborhood. Looking at receiving information that is clear to you and given to you, you should act on it. Also, do agree that this city has grown to about 460,000 residents. That's a good sign. So why mess it up? Okay? And let's not turn back the clock. Let's
15
give it
15
Let's go
seconds.
ahead and do this. Think about your neighbors and growth, and be for real. Do the right thing. And let's, like Rodney King says, let's all see if we can get along. Thank you.
Time. Thank you. And I'm taking there's no one online, right? Anyone
there's-
else in
there's
the
no
room
online
before?
speakers.
Turn it over. Anyone else? Okay. Oh, we have. Yes, sir.
I wasn't going to speak originally, but I was listening to all the speakers and I noticed that there's one point that hasn't come up. I'm not sure how many people know, but a few years ago, the state passed a law that allows municipalities to institute a measure called collective bargaining that gives workers, particularly on the municipal level, ability to fight for a seat at the table. And the caveat is it has to be implemented on the local level, i.e. through the city council. And for the teachers, they have to go through the school board, but of course they get most of their funds from the city council. So you kind of see how that kind of cycles around. The reason I'm bringing that up is because under this 10-1 system, we know that a lot of these, well, let me backtrack. We know that there are members on city council who currently don't want to see measures like collective bargaining go forward, but also other, I guess you would say, liberal or progressive measures go forward, and they're doing everything in their power to dilute the vote. And we have to look at it for what it is. The courts have already put this in motion, and then the state actually passed a law that in many ways solidified what the court had put forth. So even when the city appealed it, the court had to come back and tell them, well, it's already a moot point because it's already been instituted on the state level. And for those who don't know, Virginia is a Dillon rule state. Being that that's the case, you can't do anything on the state, on the local level that's not already proved on the local level. And also, even if they do a referendum, and regardless of how this goes, one way or the other, in order for the city to change their charter, the General Assembly still has to approve it one way or the other. Because in Virginia, under our election system, no locality can change their charter without the General Assembly approving it. So either way, we're looking at spending other millions upon millions of dollars on top of the millions of dollars that's already been spent. So from a fiscal standpoint, because we know we have a lot of folks who want to speak on how we spend our dollars fiscally, we need to think about how much we've already spent and how much is going to continue to be spent if we continue to go down this road to fight this lawsuit and to fight this case in the system that by most measures that I've heard from not only today, but from the past hearings, most people are pleased for the most part with the current system we have. So with that, I just want to speak in support of the 10-1 system, but also from the standpoint of it supporting the working class, because this gives people who may not have millions of dollars the ability to
15
run for
seconds.
office. Thank you.
Thank you. Or Councilman. Councilman Remick, do you want to?
Good evening, everyone. I'm Worth Remick. I'm your District 6 member of City Council. Thanks for the waves there. So first, I want to thank each and every one of you, no matter who you are, what you stand for, but for coming out tonight. This is democracy in action, and I appreciate it. Your city appreciates it, and we're going to be better for it. I also want to recognize the Weldon Cooper Center at UVA. I am a member, graduated from the Sorensen Institute for Political Leadership, which is run by the Weldon Cooper Center. I also want to recognize my colleague, Dr. Amelia Ross Hammond, who would not be here on City Council, I would so say, if it were not for the 10-1 system. I recognize Dr. Hammond. So let me say three things very quickly. First, where we are now. You heard it earlier. I want to repeat that. Second, my campaign of last fall and a few issues of where I stand on the system. So where we are now, just to repeat what you heard earlier, but just to kind of amplify on that, this tonight is our last public engagement, or the Weldon Cooper Center's last public engagement. That's not to say that you're not still publicly engaged. Please continue to write or communicate with your city council members to repeat us, the city council. Your city council will make a decision later this year. I can't say for sure, this is not in writing yet, but we have to, before the 2024 election, get a new system in place. Our current charter is a 7-3-1 system, 7 representatives, 3 at large, and 1 mayor. So that is against the law right now, according to the Virginia General Assembly. So we have to change our charter wherever that is. That's a legal system. So to do that, we have to go before the General Assembly next January, which means by November, December this year. This is Worth Remick speaking, not, again, City Council policy, but this is my prediction. By the end of this year, we will have to make a request of our General Assembly to change our charter to a system that as a City Council will agree upon. So it's not necessarily the citizens that will decide that, that's our City Council. So if you understand all that, still be publicly engaged, as Mr. Wright said, make your opinions known. I have, believe it or not, tonight have learned several new aspects and views on our system. Again, that's why we come out and discuss these things in a democratic society. So I did take my seat on January 3rd of this year. So therefore, about a year ago at this point, I made my decision to run for City Council. I knew it was going to be a 10-1 district system, and I also knew the district that I would be running in. It's a place where I moved to in 1985 with a full head of hair in this part of the city, and I knew it very well, thanks for the waves. And that's why I decided to run, because I really felt like I knew and had a connection with the citizens in this district, and I know the city very well, and I'm sworn in to serve all the citizens of this city as we are so sworn in to do, make best decisions for our city. But I have a connection here with members and citizens in this District 6. And I applaud what school board member Mike Callan said earlier. I too knocked on over 6,000 doors. We were so tired at the end of the campaign, we lost track. But there are 47,000 citizens in District 6. That translates to about 20,000 households. So for someone to knock on 20,000 doors in just this district is, as he says, and I say too, a very daunting task. I worked, and my team worked all summer. That's how a lot of folks did say, I can't believe that you were. So we are accountable on a door-by-door, neighborhood-by-neighborhood, street-by-street basis to our citizens in our district. We also work with our colleagues on council to make decisions. So I think you see where I'm going with this. The 10-1 system works. Look at our current city council. And the promise I made during the campaign, and I still make it, is first of all, I will return every email, text, and phone call. And a lot of folks initially kind of said, oh, good luck with that. Well, in the 10-1 district right now in District 6, I've kept that promise. It's not within the 24 hours that I initially thought, because I am connecting with those who contact me about potholes, about electrical, your street lights. And so at the end here, I want to tell you how to get in touch with me, because I do serve another almost 4 years, having just started in January. Worth Remick, it's WRemick, WREMICK at vbgov.com. I'll repeat, WRemick at vbgov.com. I'll give you my cell phone number is 757-285-4661. Text or call me, 757-285-4661. Also have some business cards here if you stay around tonight. Thank you again for attending.
Thank you. So I just want to, you want to add something? Yes.
One thing I really wanted to, Ella Dunbar. One thing I really wanted to emphasize for all of my fellow citizens of the city of Virginia Beach is that the new system, even if you didn't get to vote for a slate of candidates, did not really take anything away from you, because every single other person had the same vote that you had. Their vote didn't count any more, didn't count any less. They didn't get to vote for any more people than you did or any less than you did. The only difference would have been is whether or not someone in your district was up for reelection. And if you didn't have someone to vote for city council or whatever, their term had not expired. So you're not going to lose anything. Also, if you live at the oceanfront in Old Beach, you got no clue what's going on in Aragona. You don't know what's going on with this young lady over here. He was talking about there's a whole stand of trees gone and wasn't their concern. So if you have the opportunity by electing a representative from your district that you can know at city council what's going on in every single district in the city of Virginia Beach. So the difference is you know who you can call, you know who it should be that returns your call, because I've had the same instance where I've tried to reach someone with regard to, okay, they've dug a trench near my house. Why? I don't know. So I couldn't get an answer talking to this one, that one, or the other. So I know that when you have change, people kind of fear change a bit. And if the change doesn't necessarily look like them, they're really kind of, I don't know. But you're talking about one person, one vote. And if you have someone that makes sure that your district is taken care of, that your neighborhoods are taken care of, then, there shouldn't be any place in Virginia Beach where you should be afraid to go or afraid to walk or wonder that somebody's going to approach you and ask you something inappropriate. And you should want to know that your district is represented because the districts are diverse. You've got all kinds of neighborhoods. You have neighborhoods that are kind of, hoity-toity, kind of rich neighborhoods, and you have some neighborhoods that you can tell the houses there are not on that same field. But when it comes to city council, every single one of those folks is going to have the same representation.
15
And
seconds.
I think that's what we're all about. One person, one vote. You can't get more democratic than that. So I'm tired of people, nobody's ever knocked on my door, but I'm tired of people not recognizing that there's more to Virginia Beach than the sand at the oceanfront.
Time.
Thank you.
Thank you. So I want to thank everyone for coming out tonight. We just want to remind you of a couple of things, that there will be a random survey sent out. You can fill out the survey though online as well. The findings will be provided to City Council along with some legal options that will be put together by the legal team for City Council to consider. Also, we want to thank our school board members, Bev Anderson and Mike Cullum, and our City Council members, Worth Remick and Dr. Amelia Ross Hammond, for being here tonight. And thank you for your wonderful input. Thank you so much. And I'll turn it over to Jane.
This, as you know, this completes the engagement process for input from citizens. The Weldon Cooper Center thanks you very much for your passion and your intelligence about your own community. For those of us that came from Charlottesville, where UVA is, often our experience of other jurisdictions are their tourist places. Your beach is beautiful, but now we all leave here tomorrow and we understand what's really beautiful about this community, and it's the people. You all have been incredible to work with, all 12 sessions and many hundreds of you that took the time to help make your community stronger. Thank you so much.